sometimes get some strongly flooding neighborhood. One moment.
So let me start with a quote from the 19th century. England has no eternal allies. England has no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, said Prime Minister Palmerston in 1948. So not allies, not enemies, but interests. Major powers as Great Britain, or Germany, or the United States can afford this luxury. How much more wealthy are we Hungarians for having a friend for hundreds of years, and this country is Poland. Sometimes there is a debate among friends, but we can always count on each other. If you see the first picture, so it's a symbolic picture for Polish-Hungarian friendship from 1999. You know the person, right? It's a question. So, and the other one is the advisor to the Prime Minister Viktor Orbán in 1999. And this friendship between a Polish man and a Hungarian man is on the basic of Christian values. And the next one is the continuity to that. Okay, fine. So, the next one. You know these two persons? Which then?
All right.
Yes. This is the continuity. You know, some things are changed, something not. So the friendship is not changed, the color of my hair changed. It's not changed that I am also now the colleague or the partner of the Prime Minister, but not as an advisor, but as a Minister for Human Resources. It's a unique ministry, not only in Hungary, but also in Europe. It is the largest ministry of the Hungarian history. Human capacities means responsibility for health care, social care, family and youth, education, culture, sport, national minorities, churches, civic affairs. I think it's enough. This is the ministry and 60% of the budget, the Hungarian budget, not finances, in this ministry. And I had the honor to decorate your cardinal last year, 2016, in Krakow, with the highest decoration of the Hungarian state. So, your country and our country, Poland and Hungary, Polish people and Hungarian people, we have common heritage, common presence that you know well and what we are proud of. And we also have deep political cooperation now in the present. But it is not an automatic consequence from the legendary friendship. Having a political cooperation and doing some nostalgic thinking about our friendship is not enough to be successful in Europe. What do we need? We need deeper political discussion about Europe, the future of Europe, its communist past and the non-communist future. Not just superficial communication, but deeper understanding. We need and we would like to inspire deeper debate at different levels in different segments of society. For example, in churches, people of culture, university students, scientists, and partner cities. About Europe, we speak also about our own identity and about our history, and in interest of more understanding, I have to speak about my country. What you can read about Hungary. In the last 7 years, we are the best pupil in the European classroom, and in the last 7 years we were alone. But now we have 2 bad pupils in the European classroom, Poland and Hungary. So we are in a good society. And what are the reasons? What you can read and what you can hear: no democracy, a lack of democracy in Hungary, no freedom of press, not real tolerance, more intolerance, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and so on. But I want to speak about things what you cannot read about Hungary, or not so much, perhaps in Poland more than in Western Europe. And these are the questions of values. Values are not so important and not so accepted in Europe. Neutrality is good. Neutrality is the highest value for the European cooperation. And this is, I think, this is the main difference between Hungarian governance and EU policy. Also, let us speak about values, but values without concrete measures cannot be efficient. So that concrete measures come from values and can be translated and transformed into messages which make it clear what the government wants in society, what we consider important, what changes we want in how people think. Although we don't want to become engineers of society. I don't know if you know this expression, engineers of society. That means, thank you, yes, in our life, before the political changes, before 1990, we had an ideology where the politicians had the self-picture from themselves. They have to form, to shape society, also with violence if it is necessary, because they know better what the people need than the people themselves. So the so-called engineers of society, we know this. This is a common experience with Poland in this region of Europe, that the engineers of society work towards an utopian society, and this utopian thinking can destroy the living structure of a nation. What we can do is to support values that are formed and articulated on democratic basis. Democratic basis, that means also constitution. I have here some quotes from the Hungarian fundamental law, from the constitution. What is interesting that our constitution was not changed really, principle after the political changes. So we had in the time of the post-communist time, we had 20 years long the old constitution that was made 1949. 1949, it means we were a member of the Soviet bloc, of the communist bloc, and the name of this constitution was Constitution of Stalinistic type. So you can imagine 20 years long, you live in freedom, in democracy, but the constitution, because we didn't have a majority for that, we didn't have a consensus about that, came from 1949. Now, 2011, we changed our constitution. We have, until now, we have a new constitution, and you can read this kind of sentences. We are proud that our people has, over the centuries, defended Europe in a series of struggles and enriched Europe's common values with talent and diligence. We recognize that the role of Christianity in preserving nationhood, we value the various religious traditions of our country. So in the 21st century, so kind of sentences, it is more a unique thing in Europe, I think. That is the general meaning. We hold that the family and the nation constitute the principal framework of our coexistence, and that our fundamental cohesive values are fidelity, faith, and love. And we hold that we have a general duty to help the vulnerable and the poor. Hungary shall protect the institution of marriage as the union of a man and a woman established by voluntary decision, and the family as the basis of the survival of the nation. Family ties shall be based on marriage and or the relationship between parents and children. So they are, I think, important sentences of our values and of our principal law. The task is also for our policy to formulate this fundamental or basic position into law, and then the law can be translated or transformed into concrete actions. And then the process happens the other way around, so people can recognize the values behind these concrete acts and measures. So I stand that one of the parts of the Christian democracy policy, it is the basic of our governance in Hungary, Christian democratic political community, is to convert material decisions into culture. The material decisions should become a spiritual matter. This is the task of policy. But how could we shape policy decisions based on Christian foundations into a real Christian identity? This is the question. Christian way of life or spirituality. And I have some example for you. Family policy in Hungary is a good example, I think. I would like to pick some data and measures that show us very well how the people arrive at an understanding of the message. So these figures are, I think, symbolic and important. This is family policy. We had between 2002 and 2010, we had a government, left liberal government in Hungary. The number, this is the first number, the number of marriages in Hungary in these 8 years dropped by 23%, in addition to several other family benefits. 2010, we won the election, this Christian Democratic Union, and we introduced a tax benefit for newly wed couples, and only partly because of this, the number of marriages made increased by 46%, while the number of divorces dropped. Yes, this is also a material issue, but not entirely. It is a unique thing in Europe that you have a phase 8 years long. We lost more than 23%, and now we won plus 45% so the figures of marriages. And you see also the figures, divorces, and the birth rate. So the number of births has increased by 3.1 despite the decline in the number of persons of children-bearing age. The fertility rate has increased by 20%. More marriages were made, but I mentioned the number of divorces has decreased 18%, and the number of abortions has decreased by 25%. I have to mention that is also now one of the highest in Europe. So they are examples. How can you transform mental issues by material actions, by material measures? It's not only the marriage taxation, the positive marriage taxation, I think, so it's not only material, but it is, has also to do something with how the people think about their own life. Perhaps another example from the field of education, we had a real problem with teacher education, with teacher training, because we lost always every year's teachers. They made their own degree, but after that they were not ready to teach in the schools. They left the schools or they left the country, or they worked as in other jobs. And now, after the radical changes of the structure in the education system and also the content in Hungary in the last years, we have a radical increase of teacher salaries and the reform of teacher training. We started scholarship program for those students who want to be teacher, and the number of applications is more than 2 times higher now than when we started it, because youngsters have understood that being a teacher is honorable. So that means more than 30% of the numbers of people they want to become teachers. Structural changes, content changes we introduced. I think it's also unique in Europe. And everyday physical education, physical training every day for the children. And we are the last one. We are the last one in Hungary who introduced ethic and religious education in the school. You can imagine 2013 we introduced the religious education and ethic education in the Hungarian school. We were the last one in the post-Soviet or post-communist states. Generally about family policy, I can mention that from 2010 to nowadays we have duplicated the support of families. Now it is the 4.7% of the BGP, which is the third biggest amount within the OECD. Perhaps we have the no, at the end. But what is important, what we made. The Hungarian government speaks about conditional money. So we want to give more chance for people. They want to work and to grow children and grow up children, and not people they want to live only from social benefits. Here are some of the most important elements of our family policy: tax benefit for newlywed young couples, home child care support, extra family taxation support, the home creation, development of nursery schools, free provision of school textbooks. Since its introduction, the new home creation benefit gives up to €33,000 free for new couples who are ready to accept children or they have children. And that means that now a family with the average income in Hungary and with 3 children have no taxation. So no euro or no zloty to pay to the state. This is the impact of these measures, and they can be observed already. We speak about workfare society, a workfare community, not about welfare community. This is the way in Europe, also in Western Europe, you have to work more for your life. And what we made, welfare society, you can see the unemployment rate. It is one of the lowest in whole Europe. How this changed. Hungary is the red line, and the European Union is the blue line. When we started our program, this is the lowest point with 7 point in Hungary. Now it is under 4%. Similar processes you can see also in Poland. We are convinced that in our globalizing world, the future of Europe depends on its own competitiveness and the economic growth and the increase of employment are the best ways to improve competitiveness. And now here is the question, the most and very hot discussed question of migration. We are convinced that migration is not a solution for the future of Europe, but we have internal resources and we have to use our internal resources for the future in Hungary, in Poland, and also in Europe. So the Hungarian government has set the establishment of welfare society as its aim, which means that instead of welfare support, the primary sources of well-being of the general population should be income from work. They are, I think, our common interest, and if you see, the risk of poverty is decreased in Hungary in the last 7 years, radically, more than in Poland, or more than in Germany, and more than in Europe, or in France. It's a radical change for that. The next one, please. So, and when I speak about workfare and not welfare, that means if you see 2010, when we started with governments, the blue part are the automatically benefits of the state to families, and the red one are on the basic of social contract. Also when people are on the labor market and they are ready to work, they can have more support than the automatically support, and it was changed in the last 7 years radically. Nearly 80% of the composition of family benefits in Hungary was more than 80% the guaranteed benefits, the automatically benefits, and the social insurance-based benefits was only 20%, and now the opposite of them for 2018. And the next is, so here you see the family and child benefits in percent of social support in the OECD and in the EU countries. Hungary has the third highest. You see the European average. And Poland, where is Poland? Poland is before the Euro area. Okay, so the common interests of Poland and Hungary to make a connection between family, identity, and also history, because family, identity, and history belong together. We created not only a brand, family-friendly country, but also an action plan for that, a policy for that, and next week we will organize the second Europe as Family Summit. Also your Minister for Family, Madam Rafalska, will come and speak to us about your experiences in family policy, and this family-friendly country is the future, we think, also for whole Europe. And let me tell something at least about the past and about the future. If you see this misunderstanding between the western part of Europe and the eastern part of Europe, I mean the eastern part, Central Europe, and not only the Visegrad 4, but also the other countries in this area, you can ask what are the reasons, what are the roots, this fundamental misunderstanding or conflict, for example, about migration. I think the reasons are in our history, not only in the Hungarian history and in the Polish history, but in the history of Europe. After the Second World War, we had a consensus that the negative heritage of fascism or the National Socialism is a common heritage of Europe. Everybody has to fight against these bad ideologies, these negative ideologies. But what was happened after the Second World War? Decisions about Central Europe was not made in Warsaw or in Krakow or in Budapest, but they was made in Moscow, in London and in Washington together, and as if the Poles could have done something, as if the Poles had wanted it, former Western Europe is not ready to confront the legacy of communism. So communist heritage, what is a negative heritage? It is our private sin in Central Europe. National socialism is the common negative heritage, and the other is not only our problem. In the communist time, the Western European countries had peace and stability in growth, and we lived in dictatorship 14 years long. That was not our decision. And in Western Europe, they cannot understand why we are more resistance against migration, because migration is about sovereignty and to be able to make our own decisions. It's not only the content of migration that is important, it also matters who decides the question with which population we want to live together. So competence of Brussels and Commission versus national government and national parliament. And if you see the Hungarian history, there is reason for more resistance in our recent history as well as older history. In the last 500 years, Hungary spent only 10% of our time being independent. So 500 years history, in the last 500 years, we had only 50 years in independence. So we are very sensitive or very sensible for questions of sovereignty, for questions of our own interest and our identity. Poland has similar experiences, and this is, I think, a common experience in Central Europe. Brussels has no understanding of this because they are not willing to accept the legacy of communism as an attack against identity and sovereignty. So what we need to do is tell Europe how important it is, to say how dangerous it is to give up our own identity and to give up our own culture. The danger of multicultural society, you can see it, and if we speak about homogeneity of society, this doesn't mean a one-color community. We have traditional multiculturalism and we accept it and manage it, but this brutal artificial change in the society that has been happening in France and in Germany in the last 10 years, what French and German people had to experience in the last decades, is unacceptable for us. So the last message to Europe, our message to the whole of Europe is that a stronger Central Europe is the best for all of Europe. Let's make the cooperation stronger, as it will help the whole of Europe to strengthen identity, is the best basis for economic growth and for stability, and to become the strongest place for development for the world. A strong friendship and cooperation between Poland and Hungary is the best thing that we can give to the whole Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for inspiring talk and this all this data. I think we can go into Q&A sessions, and I'm opening the floor to all of you to ask questions. If you find difficulties with English, please do it in Polish. We have translated it, then we will manage somehow to get the right answer. The floor is yours. Don't be shy.
So I would like to ask the first question. First of all, thank you very much for today. Thank you for the warm words about Polish-Hungarian friendship. I really enjoyed the part when you spoke about the Hungarian fundamental law, but you mentioned many times the Christian values that are the basis of the Hungarian fundamental law. But I also know that Hungary actually built a wall on the border. So can you please explain explain it to the people and so on.
Thank you. I think the consequence of the protection of vulnerable groups is defend the border. Because you have the duty to protect your own community. And that means not an inhuman relation to other people, but as politicians, as policy, as government, you have to see what is your duty, what is your responsibility. And we have our responsibility for our country and for the vulnerable groups in Hungary. If I can give you an example, what is not a problem or not a question in Poland, but in Hungary it's a very strong, a very hot issue. We are 10 million people, 9.7 million people in Hungary, and 7% of our population are Roma origin. And you know, Roma or Gypsy, the PC is Roma, the self-name of these people is Gypsy. So these people are not educated, they have no jobs, they live now and also in the last 100 years on the level of the third world. So they are in a worse condition than the people they will come to Hungary from outside. And Hungary see now this deep problem, and we created a European framework for Roma strategy, 2011. It was the initiative of our Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, and I was the Secretary of State for Roma issues, for these people, and all Europe and the Commission accepted it. They created funds for that we have this framework and these actions for vulnerable groups, for disadvantaged families. Now, when the migration crisis came, Brussels decided that the funds, the money, what we will use for this community, you have shared this with to handle the migration problem. So I sent our proposals to Brussels how we want to use this money, this fund, in social care system, and the answer was it's not possible now. Until now, you have to from now you have to use it for the migrants. The half of the money is lost for the people for whom we are responsible. And what is the other side of the question? The World Bank, not a Christian democratic institution, the World Bank made a study 10 years ago. Then the unemployment rate among Roma in Europe, and it's not only Hungary but Romania, Bulgaria, Slovakia, Czech Republic, the Czechs push the Roma when they so to Slovakia more, so Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and the Balkans. So the unemployment rate is about 60% among the Roma. They are European citizens. If we give training programs and work fair programs for this community in whole Europe, and the employment rate of Roma will be the same as the average employment rate in whole Europe, it would be plus GDP 2 or 3%. So on the one hand, Europe, Germany, they speak about problems on the labor market, that they have not enough people in the labor market, and low condition jobs where you have no need real differential tools. It's the one hand, so they need immigration. It's not a human issue for that, but they think that the demographic problems and the labor market problems will manage through migration. And on the other hand, we have a population in Europe, not only in Hungary, also in Spain and in Italy, they need this help. And if you are in a state or in a state leadership, you have to decide. You have not money for the whole world. and 2 is for the whole world, you have to decide how do you use this money, how to use these tools. And we think that if we open the border, so we defend not only Hungary but also Germany and also Poland with our fence, it is not a solution. Not a solution for the migrants and not a solution for Europe, because you cannot manage this million people from all the world. What you have to do, the solution at the local level. Countries, I don't want to mention the names, countries, they are strong and they give weapons to these conflicts on both sides. They push us to accept, because of humanity, the people who have to leave their country. So it's not a good solution to support migration, and we have to show radical, you are right, radical with our friends. It's no solution. Please look for the right solution for migration, not only for our countries but also for the migrants. What we do, we support more. We are a relatively small country. We support more, for example, hospitals and schools in the Middle East for the Christian churches than other bigger countries. Because we want to help, but we want to help local. It is not a solution for the world, not a global solution. If the people from the Middle East, from Africa, and from other parts of, and from Middle Asia, other parts of the world will come to have a better life in Europe. So it is a rational argumentation on the one hand, but on the other hand it's also an ethic argumentation, because the duty to help other people will start in the community where you live, with your family, after that with your local community, after that with your own country, with your own nation, with your own church, and after that if you have other solutions and other resources, you can help also other people. But what I see that is a manipulative propaganda against these measures that Hungary made, because we have human solutions at the border. When the people come, we have the legal process that we use to decide who is a real refugee and who is illegal and only a migrant from economical reasons. So to make this difference, but this happened on the border of Hungary. The easier solution would be for us, and it would be PC, political correct. If we open the border, we make a transit way, and every migrant wants to go not to Hungary, to Austria, to Germany, and to the Nordic countries. It would be not a problem for Hungary, but it would be a bad development for whole Europe. So we have to handle on a total other way in Europe. The migration crisis, and our strong border system is a provocation for that, to push the responsible people in Brussels for a better solution, for a real solution. Quotes to share the migrants. I don't know if you know the examples. Czech Republic, they were ready to accept some hundreds of migrants, and they disappeared in 3 months. Because they want to live in Germany, not in the Czech Republic. But can they decide it?
But eventually some migrants settle in Hungary, become real refugees. So you think that the fact that they're Muslims is a treat for Hungarian society because it's a different religion, different rules? Would you like them to integrate, or do you think that they could stay with their customs and religion, or like citizens? Do you imagine Hungarian Muslim citizen? Is it possible to be a good Hungarian Muslim citizen?
My name is Zoltán, so I have a Muslim name, so I can imagine it, of course, but it's also a question of majority and minority, and the question of different, not only lifestyle, on the principles of the society. I think that Islamization of Europe is a real danger, not only for Hungary, but also for whole Europe. And this is the consequence of migration, the Islamization of our countries. Hungary is in a unique situation. We have experiences with the Muslim culture. I mentioned the 500 years in when we lost our independence. 150 years long, the Ottoman Empire occupied Hungary. And that was the tragical point of the Hungarian history. Before this time, we were a very strong Central European power. Stronger than Poland. But also in sometimes and sometimes in alliance with Poland, of course. And we lost this position forever. Well, after that, the next period of 400 years long, after that we were not an independent power in Europe. So we have the experiences with the Muslim, with this kind of Muslim culture. And of course we accept and we have integration programs, the churches makes it. We have not only this, but we have also a scholarship for Muslim students. More than 3,000 Muslim students learn in Hungary. We invited them, and it's paid by the Hungarian state to show that we are ready to accept in a legal way, in cooperation, people from outside, but not in an illegal way, and not this mass of people, because it is not to manage by a country. And it's also, it's a total authoritarian decision if we speak in Europe about sharing the responsibility. What do you have to do and what the others have to do? Nobody has an interest on it. What kind of problems Hungary or Poland has inside of the country? We accepted more than 100,000 people. They are refugees from the Ukraine because there is a civil war, and we pay the costs of that. And if we speak in Brussels about it, they are refugees in Hungary, we support them. That is not a refugees problem, it's a neighborhood problem. So it's not a real fair discussion about this. Which country has which responsibilities and which tools or instruments to solve the problems. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, any other questions? I have just one, and I'm asking that as a professor of here in Center of History Studies. 20 years ago, Francis Fukuyama, when you took the picture with John Paul II, Francis Fukuyama said that this is the end of the history, liberal democracy and so on and so forth.
And liberal democracy.
And everybody said that the nation state is going to fail. It failed, basically. Now we're going through globalization, confidence, federation, blah, 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 everything. Do you think that the time of the nation state has come back in a way? Is this the clash between two political visions? Or is something, it's only, as you mentioned, law, materializing, and then real change. But it's the state, the role of the state, the primary one, or it's still a struggle here between the state and something that is not state, but it's super-state, or it's confederation, Brussels, or anything like this.
I think then it's also the experience in Poland, not only in Hungary, that the struggle or the conflict is not only between Brussels and Warsaw and Brussels and Budapest,